We're here today talking with author Michelle Smith about her book, This is Love, This is Safe. So, Michelle, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about your book.
Oh, goodness. I guess this has really taken me a lifetime to write. Even though it was on my heart to write for so many years, it took me having hip surgery and being in bed for 2 months that I finally got it out. So,
So, talk us through a little bit. I know it's kind of your story, but kind of talk us through or give us a little bit of a trailer or a preview of the book.
for me, this story is a love story, but not just a love story between a man and a woman, but a love story between a woman and God. And how that unconditional love and healing can change your perspective on life and what has happened to you throughout your life. So, growing up, um, it I had been through a lot of different circumstances, and you know, in order to move forward and be a writer, people say you need to have experiences. Well, I've had experiences, just not the ones you want to admit to sometimes. Um, and I've been through a lot of emotional and physical and psychological abuse. And as goodness, we've been married, Joe and I've been married 6 years now. And when I met Joe was when I realized that I wasn't a damaged a damaged person. I was a healed person.
Mhm.
And he was able to show me with unconditional love how much I meant to him, and sharing his love and his views of the Lord, which I was a Christian. I've been a Christian for many years, but I never felt worthy, only because of the circumstances that have been in my life. I always felt like I was just less than and never enough to amount to anything. And different circumstances in life tend to bring you down even more. And in order to step forward and to be an example in that testimony for others to hear, you have to be healed in some sort of way, shape, or form. And I never felt that way. I never felt that I was good enough to share my testimony for others to be impacted by my story. And when I was able to learn that healing, great healing, came from God, and He gave it to me before I was even around, it was mine. I just had to accept His gift for me. And Joe was able to do that for me. So this story is a lot of my life growing and blossoming from the hurts and the pain into something that I can share and testify to others about how your ashes will go to beauty through the Lord. And that love, that genuine love, how that can just change your whole outlook, your perspective on life. It doesn't matter what you've been through. It doesn't matter the muck you've been drugged through in your life. You can take it off. I've shared with people, it's like walking through a pasture full of mud. And if you're out there working in the garden and it's springtime and it's muddy and your boot gets stuck,
Mhm.
are you going to stand there in your boot? Are you going to stand there and let the weather just take hold of you as you're stuck in that boot in the mud? I'm going to take the boot off. I'm going to leave it in the mud and I'm going to move on.
Mhm.
And that's what I had to do with my stories, with what had happened, my past. I had to leave it there in the muck, in the mud, for just what it was, and move forward. And that's what this book is about, is some of the hurdles I had to go through as a person, and some of the things that I held on to as a person, and learning that that doesn't define me anymore. And that's the story of Sandra and Jason, and how he helps her get through learning that her past isn't who she is. Her past didn't define who she is today, and that she is still a wonderful person in the eyes of God. and that his love for each of them has created a much bigger purpose in their life.
I love that perspective and that analogy of the boot in the mud. I think that resonates and just gives us a visual. You talked about it was kind of a lifetime journey of the story. Is there a moment in time where you remember thinking, I should write this book? Was it, you talked about your marriage and over the last 6 years, was it kind of in that same time frame that you realized you could become an author?
Well, when I was working, I was working for a large medical corporation. I was a manager, and I managed a large team that dealt with a lot of money. And going through different phases in my life where things have happened to me, I just put things in a box, set it on the shelf, put things in a box, set it on the shelf, and just, that's life, it happens. That's life, it happens. That's life, it happens. And I was in front of my team doing a meeting, and it was like somebody took that shelf with all those boxes of all that crap, packed in those boxes on that shelf, and shook that shelf right over me. And all those boxes came tumbling down on top of me, and they all opened up at once. And that feeling was like, oh my gosh, it was overwhelming. I became disabled. That's the only way I can put it, is I became just a shard of a person, because all of that trauma was just unleashed on me all over again. And as I started going through therapy and developing and moving through, I would write poetry. I would get up and I would write in the middle of the night, just here or there, little things. And my therapist said, you need to write a book. And I said, well, that's been on my heart, but who'd want to read it? And she's like, you need to write a book. And so one of the things is I took that, and it took several years. It took 6 years to write this book, because I never thought I was good enough. I never thought it was going to be enough to get out there. And then I just felt on my heart, it's like, you want to inspire other women who have been through similar situations, who have been through marriages or relationships or families or mother and fathers who have abused, or grandparents, or whatever has happened to them over the years. People who have been in those situations. How can I actually encourage them if they don't know? If I'm not willing to share what I've went through, how can I actually be able to encourage them? And so that's when I just sat down and said, oh, I've got to get this out. And when I finally decided that this is what was being called of me to do, it took me 2 months, 2 months to get this out on paper. And my husband would wake up and I'd be up and just typing, and it just kept going. I couldn't control it. It was just coming out and coming out and coming out, overflowing with what was in here and what was in here to what had to come out onto the paper. And now I feel like it can go out and it can reach those people that have gone through situations, and let them know that they are not ugly. They are not unworthy. They are not stuck in the muck. But through each of our trials that we go through in life, one of the things is I woke up and I had to write it down. It was like I was a water balloon, and I was being picked at this water balloon. And when you pick a water balloon with a little tiny pin, you get a spurt of water comes out of it, just a tiny leak. Well, that was me. I was leaking. I was just not myself. I was not full. I was not full of joy or love. I was leaking. And Satan would come in and poke me again and cause another leak. And I would cry out, Lord, help me, fix me. And he'd come in and he'd patch that little spot. And then he'd do it again, and he'd patch that little spot and do it again and patch that little spot. And then I look from the inside of this balloon, and it's like an ugly paper mache that a child has done. If you think about all of these things on a balloon, when you're doing paper mache, just how messy it is. And that's what I thought my life was like. It was messy. It was damaged, it was messy, it was being repaired. And who would want to look at that and think, oh, that person's got it all together? It was just, I could not see it. And I'm like, how can I show people your love if I look like this? And it was like God said, you look from the inside where you're seeing and you're picking at these wounds. What happens if you're a kid and you start picking at a scab? It doesn't heal right. But God keeps patching us and fixing us and working on us. And he said, I want you to see from the outside what I am doing for you and what you can do for others by sharing. And he showed me that if I let him shine through me, through this mess of this balloon that has been paper mache'd over, the outside of where he was fixing it is a beautiful mosaic. He has put gems on there and jewels on there and beautiful colors and just gold leafing, and he created this beautiful mosaic out of a mess of my life. And now when I let him shine through that by telling my story, he's letting other people see that this is it. You are healed. You can be. You don't have to worry about these things anymore. You may have been abused. You may have been an abused child. You may have been an abused girlfriend or boyfriend, or you may have been an abused spouse. You may have been kidnapped. You may have been attacked at a game. You may have been different things where it just makes you feel dirty and ugly. God has fixed that, and I can now share that I may feel like I'm an ugly thing on the inside, but God has shown me that no, he has healed those spots, and now his love can shine, and we can heal and be beautiful as long as we let him work through us. And that's what the story is about, is letting go of that pain, letting go of that emotional baggage that holds you down, and trusting genuine love, because it is out there. And I didn't think it existed. I didn't think genuine love existed. And that's the whole title, is This Is Love, This Is Safe. Because growing up in an abusive home, into an abusive marriage, this is love. This is what it's about. This is safe. This is what it's about. Because that's what we are taught as children, is that our parents love us and our home is safe. Isn't that it? It's not it. There's something better out there. Not all of us have had an opportunity to be with genuine loving parents, but we do have a genuine loving God. And there are genuine loving people out there. And there is hope. And that's what this book is about, is the hope.
Thank you so much for sharing powerful and allowing your story to impact others. And I can tell that's your passion and that's your hope. You can get a copy of Michelle's book. It's available online through Amazon, through Barnes and Noble. If you prefer to read an ebook on Kindle, it's also available that way. Again, it's Michelle Smith. This is love. This is safe. Thank you so much for joining us, Michelle.
Thank you so much for having me today.